This week on Gravity Reviews, we're joined by Mike from ArcanefocusDND. We talk about sponsored streams, pro streaming, the difference between company-funded stream and a private stream. So kick back, grab your drink of choice, and warm up your ear holes for this episode of Gravity Reviews. I have more silly questions, but I think we're at a good point where we can actually go into more serious, hard-hitting questions. Which the first
Perfect.
one I would be more. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you and what current project you're working on?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike, also known as Arcane Mike. You can find me at, I think we're TikTok, YouTube, Instagram is kind of the main socials I'm on. Anything with at ArcanefocusDND, Arcane Focus being our channel. Currently, what I'm working on is campaign 2 of our series of Vintier. Brand new continent, brand new players, new players. I'm also doing random one-shots. I like doing one-shots because it gives me a night to just tell a solid story. For Start Playing, if you want a entertaining 4-hour story, I'm there.
Nice. Yeah, one of the questions I wanted to ask actually isn't about your current game, but when researching, and also you helped me, you gave me a couple of links to past projects that you've been on. You used to DM for New Egg. New Grounds is very different. New Egg.
I was going to say, I actually was on New Grounds for a period. I've been doing content creation for a very long time, but yeah, I did D&D. I did DM for New Egg. There were two multi-part games I did for them. One was, I think it was like Little Lamb was the title, and the other one was the Infinity Train or Infinity Rails. For New Egg, I was their main host for Let's Plays and gaming streams. I did that for several years. I had a small team behind me, working with our marketing team, working with our social media team, and working with even special guests like Trisha Hirschberger and even her husband and Robitech. And my mom wife jumped in as well, even though she was not part of the marketing team at all. But yeah, it was so much fun to run those games, and it sort of was my first real professional foray into DMing.
Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of people always are striving to get to is being like a pro DM in some aspect, where they're working for some other stream or they're getting paid to do something. What is something that you would want to share with new DMs or anyone who's streaming? What is it actually like to work for a business doing it versus streaming from home or doing it on your own time and schedule?
I believe my experience might be different from, and this is still going to be an outcry to most people here as well. My experience DMing for New Egg as well as Gigabyte, because I did a one-shot for them too, it might be different from everyone else. The way I started with that and working with the company was that I was an employee first. My official title for pretty much both companies was community manager and stream producer, as well as social media manager here and there. And I essentially just took my love of D&D and I was like, I'm going to find a way to make this work within the corporate arena. And just sort of for Gigabyte, I made little D20s. I probably have them. I could probably find them, but actual D20s with the Gigabyte logo on them. And we made that into sort of a giveaway and sort of promotion of the company and brand. But I have worked with other DMs to have joined in. I would recommend to learn as much as you can about a brand. If they're asking you to do a brand deal, I'm going to throw out a random, if you're going to do one for Nike, very random, and they wanted you to do a one-shot for them, or they wanted to do a small campaign for them, learn as much as you can about the brand, and slowly, bring in some aspects of the brand into the story. I had a DM who ran a game for me back in New Egg, and New Egg was known for fighting trolls, internet trolls, or patent trolls, I should say. And so the whole one shot was that you were on a motherboard, but he didn't call it that. He called it the Coffee Lake, which is a style of CPU, and you were fighting trolls. And it wasn't until later that you learned that you were, these warriors who were trying to open or release an egg, and because we were Newegg. So there's always ways to integrate a brand,
Yeah.
even if just a name or a reference, and that'll make them happy when you're in the process of it. If you're trying to grab a brand and have them have you DM for them, start somewhere. Start doing some small campaigns. Start running some small one shots and record it. Publish it. Have a profile. It doesn't have to be big, but just shows that you know what you're doing and you know how to produce it. And that'll be a nice way to get in.
That's all. I think very solid because I see a lot of people on either TikTok or Shorts or something where they're trying to be like, and whatever brand that I really want, you could sponsor me. It's like, but you're not pitching to them the right way. You have to massage them and bring them in.
The big thing about sponsorships and asking for sponsorships is, and this goes for even just generalistic sponsorships. Like if you're like, I want $100 and I'll call you out on my video or my stream. As a community manager, I would receive those requests constantly. And what everyone needs to understand is it is not as simple as giving a call out. You have to prove that you have weight.
Right.
And your ask has to equate to that weight. If you have 100,000 impressions on social and you get 10,000 views, that's pretty good. Maybe your ask is $200 at that point. Because realistically, and this is the way marketing works, is that they're going to see that and go, cool, they get 10,000 views. That's really cool. Impressions, they get 100,000 views here. About 10% of that are going to actually look at it and really engage with it. And then from there, another 5% are going to probably click on the links that we're going to give the streamer or the content creator because they're going to have tracking tags on some of these links. And maybe even from that percentage, maybe even 5%, maybe buy something because that's the whole goal. And that percentage, at least from marketing side, has to equate to $200. That's the ask.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of math going on, but you have to weigh yourself and you have to be very realistic.
Yeah, because in one of my previous interviews, we talked about like reaching out to other tabletop creators and what they ask for when they do call outs or merchandise plugs and so on. For Newegg and other products that you've done, how would you go about valuing yourself as a content creator for those?
I'll have to go back to look at it, but there was an equation that Trisha Hirschberger gave to me. By the way, love you, Trisha. We need to hang out more. She's very popular and she has herself established as a brand. And the equation she gave me was like for every 100 views or something along that line, that's a penny. And she was like, realistically, how many views do you think this will gather? How many impressions do you think it will gather? Now divide that by 100, and then that's your pennies. And then that'll determine how much you can probably ask, your asking power. So in terms of valuing yourself, if you know that you have like less than $10,000 or 10,000 views or subscribers or something, go small. $100 maybe is a good ask. What I've learned after playing this game for so long, and I mean the marketing game, is that sometimes it's actually worth it just to do it for free for exposure.
Yeah.
Mithra Armory is a company that builds dice, and really everything about it. They build D&D dice out of metal, like thin, like foldable metal that you can utilize and have it in your back pocket and just pull it out of your wallet and bend it real quick. Really cool stuff. And they reached out to me and I was like, yeah, I'll just do it. And that was so that I can show potential other sponsors that I'm like, I've done this. And I was able to sell 5 sets. And that's not a lot, but that's enough for me to go, I'll do your next thing for $50. Right. Because I know I can get you some sell. I can get you some purchases.
Yeah, that's always when you're trying to make that big step from just a group of friends at a table to actually a business. This is a big
Yeah.
thing to try to figure out. I only joke about a group of friends at a table because I think we all kind of know that general slogan from a big group that had some backing to start out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's always the lucky few.
yeah,
And good for them, obviously,
yeah,
because they pave the way and they make it so that it is a possible drink to reach out for, and it's
mhm,
something that can that can occur. But temper your expectations. Make sure that you are, evaluating yourself fairly. And first and foremost, the whole thing when it comes to D&D and as well as D&D content, do it for yourself first. Don't try to make something and go, this is going to be for sponsorships. It's like, no.
mhm.
Make sure that you and your players are having fun.
Yeah, that was going to go to my next question of, because you've been doing this for a while. I was going through your back catalog.
Yeah.
How do you maintain, you know, having fun at the table when you're also producing content?
That's fair.
Yeah.
For me, obviously the fun goes first. When it came to D&D content, I didn't actually start making content until maybe 2 years of DMing for my friends. During the pandemic, every single Saturday, me and my friends would get together on Discord and we would play on Roll20, and we would play for 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours. It was because we had nothing to do.
Right.
And we couldn't hang out with each other. And so that was our outlet. And I did that for 2 years, 2 straight years of 10 to 12 hour sessions. And we finished what we call now our campaign 0. And it wasn't until then where I was like, this is a grand story. And I was really proud of it. And I was like, I want to just at least have it there.
Right.
So if anyone were to enjoy it, that's how I usually began it. And that's how I still find that energy is I keep the fun first. And then I go, if anyone else enjoys it, it's out there to watch.
Yeah. With that, you did mention using Roll20 and maintaining fun. Are there any other systems that you would also suggest to people to use when they're trying to play online, since it is a growing way of connecting with similar play styles? I won't say like-minded because everyone is different, but like similar play styles and finding groups.
Hey, if we're all enjoying a game, we're all like-minded.
Yep.
No, but I get you saying. Roll20 obviously is sort of a staple. It is your Coca-Cola of tabletop, virtual tabletops. Back in the past, before it was discontinued, I would use a lot of Astral, and RIP to Astral. I miss that, and I miss you, Tom, from Astral. I was able to have him on a few sessions of my campaign, of the owner of Astral, and that was so beautiful. It was so easy to use. But because that's not available, Alchemy is very nice. It is a little hard on at least some of my players' PCs. It's a little bulky. But if you have a heavy enough system, it is beautiful. The UI is simple. It's very easy to use. Absolutely love it. Foundry is nice as well. I've used Foundry for near like the last half of my campaign 1. And it had everything I needed and then some.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is I'm not a server person. I don't know how to do hosting.
Oh yeah.
Eventually, I could not pay for server hosting, and I was like, I'm going to Roll20.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something about Roll20 that's nice, is that it's free for people to use. It's pretty easy. There are some drawbacks, but also the ability to post that you're looking for a game on their website versus a lot of the other ones, which are just VTT, virtual tabletop oriented.
Yeah. And if you want to do like sort of promotions features, and I know I'm switching back to Alchemy, but they do have like you can stream or you can broadcast within their own system.
Mhm.
And sort of the last shout out I want to give is Owlbear Rodeo. If you want a quick and dirty game,
Yeah.
has everything you need.
Nice. I'll have to check. I
Yeah.
haven't heard of them yet, so I should
Oh
check
yeah.
them out. Yeah. What made you also start using TikTok and more short form?
Sure. I didn't take TikTok seriously, and it's not that I mean like, oh, TikTok's a fad and it's going to go away. TikTok was, even when I was barely using it, was huge, and I enjoyed flipping through every single video. But I don't know, something sort of clicked, and during that time, I was no longer doing D&D streams. Me and my wife, we had a baby, and our campaign 1 ended. And so I told my players, I went, well, I kind of need a few months to recuperate. We did this for 4 years. Where every single Saturday for 4 hours we were playing a game. And I was like, I need a few months to recharge the batteries, get some new ideas, and come up with a new story for you all. And so we took like a 3 to 4 month break. And during that time, I wanted an outlet, and I was sort of struggling for an outlet. I'm a creative person. If you've seen all the videos I've made, they're all streams, they're all let's plays, they're all some sort of content, and it's just who I am. And so I was like, you know what? There's a lot of stories I had from campaign 1, and let's talk about a few concepts and ideas that came to my mind. And that's when I started taking TikTok seriously, where I was like, every day I'm going to do a video. And I almost did the full 30-day challenge. There was a one day where I had to go away, but yeah, it was just from that dry spell. I needed something, and it turned out to be that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason. Just like before I even asked, I think I had the same concept and watching, like going through and checking your content. Like, yeah, I feel like I also didn't take it seriously for a long time. I was like, oh, that's just something that my partner's like little brother gets memes off of and does whatever. But then with like the downfall change of Twitter, um, the shift of communication going from a Twitter space where everything is going very fast and people, yes, liked or didn't like it, over to TikTok where it's relatively similar, except for you just post videos of yourself asking the questions instead of posting about them or retweeting them. And that utility of building a community like on a new social media platform.
I'm gonna feel so bad, because I hope I don't forget the name, and if I look this up later, I'm gonna feel so bad. But just to let you know, for this one user, I love you, for all the engagement. But her name was Chaotic Dumbass. I know it sounds like I'm insulting someone. No, it's their username. When I started to take my TikToks very seriously, it was almost like this community thing where they were liking every post, and they started to tag me and like, show me your dice collection. And it was the first stitch I ever did where I was like, yes, I want to show you my dice collection. Yeah, TikTok is way more than what I gave it credit for. It's a collection of these content creators and just players and DMs who just want to share their experience. When I asked the question about genies, I got a bunch of people who jumped in and were just like, they used to be this, or they're like this, or you can utilize them this way. And I was like, thank God. Because to your point, if I went to Twitter, or if I went to, God help me, Facebook, Instagram is definitely not made for that type of engagement. But if I went to these other platforms, I would either get nothing because I would be a small fish in a big pond, or I would get non-helpful answers. And TikTok is just the right type of community.
Yeah, it's interesting you say small fish in a big pond, because that's actually something that came up in a few of the streams. You said that a similar concept on a few of your streams as
Yes.
well. Where do you think that you do fall within like the streaming community or tabletop community? And has it changed over time? Like, do you feel like you were like more popular at one point and it's gone down just because of life? Or
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was streaming for Newegg, we were doing 2 streams a week for 2 hours, and I built sort of like this notoriety. I was within at least this small community. Um, and the reason why that I recognize that is whenever I went to the Discord or if I ever posted something on my own personal channels, I would see familiar faces. And I didn't ask them to follow me. I didn't ask them to, check out my own personal streams. They would just show up and provide support. And I was like, I can't believe I have a base. And then when I switched over to Gigabyte, in terms of my career, some of those familiar faces came along, and I was like, this is incredible. I felt very humbled. But yeah, it has diminished, and that was mainly because I became jaded with content for a while. It was after Gigabyte. Not to go full, sort of divulge everything, but I did not, near the end, did not enjoy myself within that company. And it kind of left a bad taste in what I was doing, which was content. And so I decided just to sort of take a step back. At the same time, I had my kid, and I was like, this is going to be my new focus. And I enjoyed it. And during that same time, I already had a pre-established D&D stream, and I was doing it just for the fun of it. I wasn't doing it for the content at all. But yeah, it definitely has diminished a little bit. In the past, I used to work with D&D content creators. I used to work with leathersmiths and carpenters who would make these beautiful boxes, or they would make these beautiful, I have some leather books from these content creators who I've worked with in the past, and these illustrators who make character art. And slowly the name started to expand, and we'd see jumps in followership. But all that had to be put aside as family started to become my next priority.
Mm-hmm.
But that's changing now.
Yeah.
Family's still priority, but we got a rhythm down.
Yeah.
And Vin Tier is coming. Our campaign too.
How do you feel like that has potentially changed your creative process? Do you feel more creative now, or do you feel like it's kind of like, so I used to be in a band, and I fully recognize that I was a lot better at music when I was in a band, because I was doing music all the time, singing, doing everything, and that it just activates that part of your brain, that muscle. But how do you feel like your creativity has gone up or down since now you're doing it on your own?
That is a very interesting question. When I was doing it weekly for companies, I had a budget, and I had tools, and I had things available on my side. Like if I wanted to, I can go to my bosses and I go, I need $100 for another green screen. And they would go, why do you need 2 green screens? And I'll go, because I want one green screen to be behind half our party. Because I did this one really fun stream with Newegg where one of our hosts used to play a lot of plane sims. And so he actually did become a pilot later in life. And he was that good. And it was one of those things where you would have to call in. You had a microphone, and you'd be like, Tower 122, I want to go here. And there'd be someone else on the other line saying, all right, 473, you're going to go have takeoff. You're cleared to go. And I was able to express myself so freely because I had a budget and I had all these tools available. And then when I went solo, obviously that got scaled back. I had, but I still had I had a separate room. And that was my studio. I was able to make that my personal studio where it had a big long green screen and LED lights, and it had basically the whole streamer getup. And I was able to get creative. And then life moved on. I had a son, and that room did not become my studio anymore. It became my son's room. So yeah, I think my creativity has gone down. But I don't want to say that it's gone away or has fully gone down. It's shifted. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing full streams, now I'm doing TikTok where I'm able to find a quiet room, or I'm able to find a place outside with my thoughts, and I can express myself there.
Yeah, that's because I always think that creativity actually does better with constraints, and when you have to figure out how to work within a small box.
Yeah.
because there are plenty of times I see either people I've already interviewed, I won't name them particularly, but yeah, either people I've interviewed or streams that are suggested to me. It's like, okay, you have a big budget and this is all you're doing with it. You're like doing something that's very
Mm,
safe that's not unique. I'm sure people could go over to my TikTok and see some recent reviews of things. Um, I don't expect you to have seen it yet, but a
yeah.
couple. Just a new system that came out for playtesting. But with that, that's where I'm so interested too about how the creativity changes when you do have the team. Like you said, you could network with other people in the industry, get you know items made, things done. To
Yeah.
now,
It was an interesting idea because it's Newegg especially was the most freeing.
yeah,
Gigabyte had a lot more of a hold, and I think that's where that soured
hmm
my mentality on content creation. But Newegg definitely allowed it, at least for the beginning, for a full reign. I had a small budget, so it's not like I had this big, amount. Maybe I had to request anything that was higher than
hmm
$50. Which when it comes to like, I have to buy new lights or I have to buy a new microphone, of course it's gonna be over
yeah,
$50. Um, but there is a benefit to having a budget, and there is a benefit to having a team. Uh, I was able to grab 4 people, 5 people, and they were the official stream team under me. And we even had a guy behind the chair who was moderating chat and switching scenes for us and adding small little graphics to the OBS on the fly. And yeah, it for the experience, it was very much freeing, and it sort of gave me this freedom to do. Okay, at the 2 minute mark, we're going to open up with this. We're going to do this, and it really sort of puts you into the producer's mindset.
hmm
Um, and you're not also, because it's not your money, you're also not afraid that like if you guys end up getting a Nerf gun with a lot of power and you start to shoot at each other, and if it hits a light, you don't have to worry about that. You could just
yeah,
go, hey, we need a new light. Not out of your pocket.
right. This is a little break from the interview to remind you to smash that subscribe button and check out the other videos on my channel. Or if you had enough of me, go check out ArcanefocusDND. Links will be below. Now back to the interview. Going two different ways of doing it too. Like when you were at Newegg and you had the team under you, how would you resolve conflict either with the team, or did it ever actually happen where there's potentially like player conflict that bled over to workplace conflict? And how's that different from what you're doing now versus conflict?
Yeah. When I was working for Newegg, a lot of it, and I know you said player, but a lot of it was like hosting, mainly because we weren't just doing D&D. We were doing a lot of video game live streams. We definitely did had conflict. There were moments where, we had some hosts who were trying to utilize the platform as a springboard. They would call out their own personal projects constantly, where it became that joke of like, I'm doing another plug, guys. Don't forget that I have a thing. Where almost like beating a horse, it's just not funny anymore. You're just, you're repeating yourself. You already passed the comedy, the rule of 3. And I would have to sit them down and be like, hey, you got to calm down. And that definitely brought out a bit of like resentment. The dynamics slowly changed. And it's unfortunate, but it is a reality. And I'm very lucky that at least the people I chose to be my co-hosts, majority of them were not exactly in my team. I was part of the marketing team, and some of them were going into, email pushes. That's still part of the marketing thing, but they had their own sort of separate team. I had people that were within marketplace sellers who would deal with that portion because Newegg was a retail company, or still is. So the dynamic really changed in camera, where they were a little more quiet this time. They were a little more curt this time. And so a lot of it was just communication. You have to put your foot down. And sometimes that's not always the positive thing, but it has to happen. The difference between that and now is now I'm working with my friends. And if we have a problem, we can say, hey asshole, what the fuck's wrong with you? And it just becomes sort of a jovial thing, like, I need you to stop doing that shit. And they're like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. It's like, okay, cool, man. Do you want to tell me off? It's like, yeah, I do. You suck when you do this. All right, I hear you. And we move on. The people I'm playing with are my wife, who I've been with for over a decade, and my friends who I've been friends with for almost a decade. So maybe we actually are hitting the decade. I'm trying to think now. Close to that. Long time. So I already have a rapport with them. It's easier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder how that. I doubt you would swear at your partner or your wife, like, "Hey, asshole, what are you doing?"
No, but there have been times where, like, if my wife is doing something, in the beginning of campaign 1, I remember there was a thing where my wife would, again, because we're doing virtual, it's very easy to step over someone else's lines or voices. If someone else is talking and you decide, I'm going to say something now, it's hard to tell when someone has a natural pause. And so she would constantly do that. She would step on people's toes and she would talk when other people talking. And it becomes just sort of a small conversation. Be like, hey, you're talking a lot over someone else's. Just take a breath. They're having a dramatic scene. Dramatic scenes have a lot of pauses and they have a lot of breaths, and like you're breathing out and I'm not sure what's going on. That's not a scene for you to jump in that moment.
Right. Yeah. Are there any tools that you've developed while DMing to help facilitate that, especially because you do stream online? So.
Yeah. I've switched up my content a little bit. We've sort of switched over to recording and then publishing and sort of like live streaming the recorded video. But before, when we were doing live streams, it very much has to be me stepping in and being the father. Before I was a dad, like 2 players were having an RP moment and one person was like, I want to jump in and I want to say this. And I go, okay. You want to do that? Sounds great. Let's just finish a little bit of the scene here, and then we're going to move forward. Or I would talk to the player who I'm having the role play moment and going, okay, we can definitely say that this character jumps in a little bit, but is there anything you want to finish in this 1-to-1? And it's very much communication. You have to talk to your players, make sure that they're okay, and don't ignore the person who wants to jump in. Maybe they do want to add to the scene, but if you're having like a 1-to-1, or if there is a moment where 2 people are talking to each other, just go, you have to step in as a DM and say, hold on. Finish what you were just going to say. Okay, great. Are you okay with this person jumping in? Awesome. All right. Well, I'll bring you in, and then you have to be the director.
Yeah. Because that was something I was noticing in like a good way, the dad energy on the streams, but.
Austin,
even though you've been playing with your friends for nearly a decade, do you still have like 0 sessions and recheck-ins with your friends and team?
Yeah. There was a certain point in our live streams where we all recognized that we were sacrificing our Saturdays every single week. And so what we decided was that we were going to pull back, like halfway through the campaign 1. We're gonna pull back on the amount. We're doing 4-hour sessions. Let's roll down to 3 hours, and then the last 30 minutes will be us, what we called short rest, which was sort of another produced content, but it was for us to talk about the session and talk about how we felt about it. And so it sort of gave my players a little bit of an open voice to go, "What the hell was that?" And they would yell, and of course that's good content already. The content creator in my brain is like, of course it's going to be great when a player turns around and goes, "What the fuck did you mean when this scene happened?" And it's like, you're right. This is what happened. And you can probably, as a DM, I can share a little bit of the secrets behind the scenes. Or they'll go, if a player is like, what was with this character? Why were you acting like, even if it was player to player, it's like, why were you acting that way? And then if the player feels they can say, well, my character was actually feeling pretty stressed, and that's why I acted that. And then it creates this open dialogue where it's like, oh, I see where you're coming from. I'm no longer upset.
Yeah, though that's what I was noticing is also helpful for not just your stream but others where people share their post game conversations and understanding happens. And even if there's like a little peek behind the veil or meta knowledge, it's like, oh, okay. That's why that person did that thing. I thought you were just targeting me as a player. Versus, no, you said to this NPC 3 episodes ago, insulted them. So now that they're in a position of power, of course they're going to take it out on you.
I think, I don't remember the exact example, but I remember in that same sort of vein, someone was like, you were really aiming for me. Why? And in story, because it was still further down the line, I couldn't say anything. And so I was like, well, I can at least confirm, yes, they were aiming for you. Why? I can't say. And that was enough for my players. It felt enough where they were like, oh, there's something I'm missing. And it became less of you bullying me, and it became more of, oh, there's something here. And it became more of an intrigue. And then it became almost like a cry for help because they were like, guys, he's confirmed it. He's after me. Next game, you have to help me. And it just drives the story along. And even though we are showing a little bit underneath the veil, it's fun for them. And that's the whole point.
Right. Where do you find most of your influences from when you're crafting either a story or NPC? And those could be completely separate too.
Oh man. Like any good DM, we steal our stories. We steal our inspirations. We read a book. We read a comic book. We watch a cartoon. We watch an anime. We watch a TV show. We watch a movie. If we find something that is interesting and we just tweak it so much that it fits within our world, and then it becomes a thing. I know that, like one of the big bad baddie in my first campaign was an evil queen. My God, how many evil queens are there in fairy tales? And at least for her whole character was Catherine Evergrey. And she was an evil queen, became a lich, yada yada yada, whole backstory. But she was born from the idea of burning bridges. During her reign, I was like, well, she has to have a bridge to burn. So I was like, during her reign, there was a point where she was wonderful and graceful and very caring to her subjects, and then something snapped. That gives me a plot hook, gives me a little story to say what made her snap. We're not getting into it, but essentially that gives me story. And then she inducts a new law that you have to study magic, divine magic, druidic magic, born magic. All of this is dangerous. And it came from that idea that if you were to give a child sorcerer magic, like they were born with fireball, that's dangerous. And so that concept grew into this queen going, everyone needs to study. If you are seen without a license, or you were seen practicing divine magic, like you were just worshiping a god and they gave you guiding bolt as a teenager, are you kidding me? No, we're not having that. Bad things are going to happen. And everyone revolted. They hated that and they exiled her. And so all of the people she scorned, all the deities and all the demons and warlock patrons and the divine nature itself, like for where druids get their power, she was like, maybe I had it wrong. And she went to each one and was like, please grant me power so that I can show them that I was wrong. Like, I am now part of this circle. And each person said, you burned your bridge. No. And she became mad and wild. And so it starts small with a simple concept of burning a bridge. One of my favorite NPCs, his name is Moscow Price, a fire genasi artificer, who alchemist subclass. And he's not a daring adventurer. He's not some important guy. He was born from when I was this concept of I went to this really expensive bar in Vegas one time, and I was looking over another table, and this guy was doing all these moves. Full, I think it was Tom Cruise who's like jumping, flipping drinks and shakers and pouring drinks, and lit a shot on fire. But he didn't do it normally. It wasn't like snap, snap, snap. Here's a lot. He would like flipped everything from behind his head and lit it. And I was like, that's so cool. Fire genasi. An alchemist who has magic infused with their alcohol in their drinks. And if they want to make a fire shot through their hair, light it on fire. It just became a small concept of a lit cocktail to what ingredients do you need? Someone with alchemy, someone with skills of alcohol mixtures and concoctions, and a little bit of fire.
That's a great way of turning something that is within the real world into a notable or memorable, even like NPC. How are there times that you find your players remember an NPC better or found them more memorable than you thought they were going to be?
Yeah. Part of one of my character's backstories, was character had some ties with, like the government, not the government, the military. They had some ties. Their husband, who passed away, had a troop, and those troop had a couple of members, and they all had their own individual personality. And I was like, these guys are going to be a troop. They're not individuals, because I don't have time to build 5 people in addition to the billions of other people I'm building. But they're going to work together. They're all going to have some small hiccup, some small, like one character note. And my players love them. There was one particular character named Torres, who was this half-orc fighter, part of the troops and part of the military, who just cursed like a sailor, but didn't mean it in a mean way. She would she had a connection to one of the players, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, it's my fucking bitch. Come over here." And she would say it in such a positive way. She goes, "I miss the fuck out of you. Where the fuck have you been? Because we need to go drinking right now, you stupid, stupid elf." And though it sounds very mean on paper when you're writing out a little bit of like a blurb, I'm going to say, my player loved them. They were like, "I missed you too, you giant green asshole." And it just became this repertoire where even the other players were like, the moment I started cursing at them, they were like, "I like this person." So I didn't expect that to happen. I thought she was going to be a one-note cursing sailor, military person, and she grew to liking one of the player's brothers, and very much became a trusted ally. And even at the final battle, they were like, I think one of the things they were like, "Well, name all the friends you've made along the way, and we'll call them over." And they were like, "We want Torres. We need to have her here."
That reminds me of the classic D&D meme where it's like level 1, your player introduces their barbarian character. "My name is Shatid, the shit barbarian." And then by like level 20, it's like, "No, not Shatid.
Shatid, please. You've been with us for so long."
No,
I know, yeah,
I
like
must go. Save
Gibbled
yourselves."
Grops,
Yeah.
the goblin.
Yeah.
"I'm Gibbled Grops, the goblin."
Yeah.
Like my wife made up a character on the fly a few days ago. She's like, "You need to have a guy named Bob Bip." I was like, "You got it."
Yeah.
It's gonna be somewhere in the world.
How do you play with tropes in your game? And then what are some of your favorites?
Oh, I love going against tropes. Oh my God, it's my favorite thing ever. Reflavoring is so damn good in D&D. That's the most thing. I get so excited. I'll give a good example. I had an NPC who was an air genasi, and for my mind immediately, which kind of makes sense, is air genasi, airhead. Maybe a little dumb. And so I'm from California, and the most dumb thing I hear a lot of times whenever someone tries to do a California accent, they do like the very, oh my God, Valley Girl accent that kind of like has a lot of likes and has like pauses. And there's a thing about California accents where it's like almost like a roller coaster where it's like, I'm really meaning it. Like you're kind of going for a little hill. And I was like, I'm going to make a Valley Girl, Air Genasi airhead who's the smartest bitch in town. But she still talks that way. And my players loved it because it was like, they were expecting, they're like, oh God, who are we dealing with now? Who's this person? And she's like, oh my God, you have a +7 sword. That's so cool. Actually, I made this. It has my name right here. And they're like, wait a minute, what? I made a reflavored barbarian because I hated rage to be, and again, this is when I turned to dad. I was like, they're gonna have a parental protection. They're not getting rage, they've just become parentally aware. And that was the whole gimmick. So any way to reflavor, I get so excited for it.
It's funny you bring up Valley Girl and then using that kind of trope subversion to be they're highly intelligent, because if I remember correctly, the origin of using that like ending on a question, the upwards inflection is because it's what draws people to like listen to what someone's going to say, because you think they're about to ask a question or they need your input when really they don't. It's like, so I was driving my car and I realized that the combustion engine of it, does this thing. It's really cool how, thermonuclear dynamics work inside of just our everyday vehicles.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're busting down facts.
Yeah.
That you're like, wait a minute, you know that?
Legally Blonde.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many. I have a slight tangent towards more tech things, but you know what? It's interesting that you also said, good DMs steal from real life or other content.
Any DM who says they don't, they're lying.
Yeah, they're lying. Because,
lying.
Again, during your Smash or Pass stream where you were carving, you had mentioned a particular orc image and a book series that I know you probably didn't look into, but I decided to because it was fun and interesting. So my next question, multiple choice,
right? Yes,
is in the Orc Sworn series by Finley Fenn. How many books are there?
You're right. I haven't looked into it, but I love there. Yeah, you're right. There was that moment in the stream where we started talking about romance novels, and that was it. By the way, it hasn't gone away in my Amazon recommendation feed. It's still there, and I'm slowly inching to just spend a night.
I have some options.
I'm gonna have to give a guess. Oh yeah. Yes, perfect.
A 7, B 9, C 11, D 13.
Now, if I had to go by instinct and by what my friend Temple told me, one of my players, these types of novels are pumped out like crazy. So I'm going to say 13.
You sure?
Final answer.
Okay. So there are canonically 9 in the Sworn series. However, the actual answer is 11 because they also have a few half books that take place in between the stories of the other books.
Of course, because the lore is so intricate.
So intricate.
Of course, you need a little side steps,
Yeah.
Little side quests just to learn about. I don't know what the series is about.
Well, that's where this next question is going to come in.
Grand.
In the governess and the orc, what is the name of the governess? I have A, Feyre Arcane, B, Jiva Okoro, C, Jamie Fraser, D, Fabio Lanzoni.
Well, I know it's not D. The number C, no. That's too plain.
Jamie Fraser?
Jamie Fraser. Come on now. I'm going to say... What sounds more like a dummy mommy?
So then that leaves A or B. A is Feyre Archeon, or B, Jiva Akoro.
I'm going with A.
A. So it sounds like you are a fan of the Akotar series, because that is where Feyre Archeon is from. The
What'd you call me?
Akotar, the a court of. Oh, I'm going to mess it up. A court of thorns and
We
roses.
just met.
Yeah,
Don't call me that.
but it is Jiva Akoro.
It's one off.
Mm-hmm. There are also the what is it? I should have written them down, but there are some spicy passages, and it's all like the orc's bride, the widow, and the orc's bride's son. Yeah, those are, and yeah, they are interesting. I'll say that.
It's really funny. I went to my local bookstore, and we were just picking books, and bringing my kid. And we had a couple kids' books, and my wife was like, "Well, I'm going to pick up 2," and so she picks up 2 books, and we go home. And I'm not sure if this was a discussion and where it came from in that stream, but yeah, one of the books ended up becoming a sort of a romantic, almost like a thirsty novel, and I remember she tried to read it, and she was like, "I can't handle this. This is just so corny. I can't handle it." And she returned it. But yeah, I know for a fact they pump those out quick.
Yeah. Well, you just start one, and then by page 100, that's when the sauciness starts really happening.
Oh, that's when it grabs you.
Yeah. There's a great podcast called Clutch My Pearls that goes through
what a
romance.
Brilliant name.
Yeah, it goes through romance novels, and they read passages from them and talk about the synopsis. And they have a
Clutch My Pearls.
Very early on, they have a funny one about where turkeys. That is not for the faint of heart.
I'll take your word for it.
But it's one of my new favorite podcasts.
Thank you for telling me the name. Yeah. It's a brilliant name and a concept.
Yeah. But back to things that you probably know more about, I would hope, is what are some... I don't know how much you still keep track of tech advances for tabletop, but are there any items that you're excited about that you may have seen or that have been advertised for improving people's tabletop games online or with additional?
Yeah. Generally, what I was expecting from the question was like, do you keep up with tech in general? Most of my tech experience comes from like hardware, especially like the internal parts for a PC, which is where most of my Newegg and Gigabyte experience comes from, was building PCs and helping people do that. And throughout my entire tenure there, I would tell people, I don't know how to do it. I really did. I just didn't want to get questioned so many times. But in terms of like tech advancements for tabletop, I mean, there's I don't think it's new, but like certainly like hidden, like like monitor tables where you would have like a TV screen or an LCD screen actually on the thing. There was one video I saw where I guess the screen itself was touch, and it had some sort of like magnetic sensor, almost like maybe like a switch where you would put like an amoeba, I think it was called, or amiibo or whatever, where your figurines would be on these stands and it would interact with the map. So you would slide it and the field of the fog of war would go away. And if there was a wall, it would stop and you could slide your figurine the other way. I didn't catch the name of it, but I saw that and I was like, oh, so cool. I don't have the room nor the money.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Is there anything that you see for tabletop that, as far as cool trinkets and tech go, that you just don't think that actually works for streaming or at the table at home?
The aforementioned sort of table, like the actual like having a animated table on the ground or on your table, I don't think that's it doesn't help out with streaming. It's good for the players to interact with it, but it would be a nightmare to capture that, center it, and then crop it in a way where it looks natural. I'm sure you can do it, but is it really worth it when you could just do a screen cap of like a Foundry map? I feel like that's kind of a wasted space there. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I would steer people away from. Yeah, big bulky stuff like that is kind of useless. It's the only thing come to mind, sadly.
Yeah, it's not really a trick question, but it is something that is really up to people's choice, I guess, of
Yeah.
whatever they're into. But tables was also going to be something that I highlight just because usually they're fairly small in relation to an actual battle map. So using that giant Chessex board that's like 4 feet across and whatever is
Yeah.
30 seconds, draw something, you're done. It has the same depth as the table.
By the way, for all the DMs there who are making their maps and who enjoy making custom maps, make your map smaller.
Yeah.
My God. I used to be part of this. Much love to this DM because he was DMing for me and my wife for like 2 years straight, and then we had to cancel it because we were having a kid. But the maps he would make were the largest thing in the world. I'm talking like 800 by 800 squares.
I was thinking large, like 100 by 100, not 8. Well,
no, because he wanted to build the entire castle, but it was like not fully spaced. Like if you were to think about this in real life, how this would look. Let's say I'm going to say we're going to build a dining area. The dining table would be sized like 15 feet across, and then lengthwise would be maybe 80 feet. You know, it's a grand dining hall. But it'd be sitting in an empty room with a large gap on each side of the wall with nothing in it.
Yeah.
And so that's my biggest call to people. Make your maps smaller. Condensed is so nice, and it lets you add so much nuance and details.
With that, I almost want to piggyback. What is something, how often do you do modules or other people's like you do the one shots, but how much are you doing other people's written modules?
I think it's more or less fear.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned before, I don't really have the patience nor the attention span to read like the history of the Nine Hells, or I have to read about a particular deity, or I have to know about, you know, like if I was going to run someone's game, and obviously modules are just sort of a guideline, you can sort of twist and move things as they go. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I rather make my own world with my own rules. So no one can come crying to me and say, that's not what Strahd would do. It's like, doesn't matter. It's my Strahd.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was a good pause. Do you mind if you cut that? I'm going to go turn on a light.
Yeah.
It's dark in here.
I actually think we answered the majority of all my questions and fun questions. I think the last ones I have are just, what are you looking forward to for your personal stream or life that's going on?
Yeah. Obviously, when it comes to like my TikTok content, I know TikTok currently is on a bouncing wire right now. My hope is that it continues and I can continue to interact and engage with fun content creators such as yourself, and really be exposed to more people within the community. That's my biggest hope for my TikTok. Literally, it's not like I can't wait to get branded. No, I just want to engage with more people. I enjoy it. I would love to start playing on a more regular basis. Right now, it's just whenever I can find players, and sort of allow that to be my at least a side income. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's just sort of a pocket money thing. But for my stream and my main thing, which, you know, I've been working for a few months for campaign 2 to come out, and I just want it to be entertaining. My biggest goal for my stream and my campaign is that if I get 2 comments on the first 3 videos, boy, I'm going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah.
You know, live plays, or at least this is recorded, but live plays is not at least for me, it's not an engagement interactive stream and content. you are not sitting watching clips, or you're not watching full episodes uploaded to Dimension 20, and you're not going, ooh, I can't believe they did that. And even when you're looking at a live stream, if the DM is the one who's streaming it, generally, not say all DMs are like that, but generally a lot of them are not fully engaging with chat because they're there to tell a story.
Yeah,
they already have enough on their plate. And so I don't expect that from my audience. I don't expect them to go in and be like, ooh, look at that. Wow, check that out. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. If you enjoyed it, tell me you enjoyed it. That's all I need.
Yeah, I was going to save it for after, but I think it's a good one to end on, is that I thought it was really smart. I didn't know that you pre-record your live stream and then do it, because that gives you so much more flexibility. Because if you want to double stack or do whatever, do a couple episodes in a day, because for the next couple weeks we're going on vacation, but we want to hit that Saturday or Tuesday or whatever day you want date.
Yeah,
and just put it out there. It's such a smart way, because there's so few interactions on a tabletop stream, because you can't stop your epic conversation with Strahd to be like, thanks, Sandman 87 for the raid. Yeah.
It really ruins, at leleast for me, it ruins the story, and it sort of brings my players out of the moment. The reason I started doing recordings was because, again, we had baby and we had taller, and we would break, and I would go change him or feed him, and then we'd come back. So it really was just to facilitate that. And eventually I started to get introduced to other content creators who were doing similar recorded stuff, and they were adding music and sound effects and all these visual things. And I was like, man, it was way more engaging to watch this.
Yeah.
Live streams are fun. It's, if you find a good group with a good DM, with a couple of great players, and you really get into the way they're telling the story and how the characters are interacting with each other, I'm going to watch that live stream. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But like that added touch will really drive me in. And so it's kind of what we've been slowly evolving to. And that's what campaign 2 is going to be, is sort of like this fully recorded, heavily edited. I have some skills with Premiere, and make it really digestible and enjoyable.
Nice. I think that's a good thing to end it on. I want to say thank you for your time. I had a wonderful time talking with Mike. He had a lot of interesting input and ideas for my own tabletop RPG streams. We were able to talk a little more after the stream, and I have to say he's a genuine guy that you should check out on Twitter, TikTok, and his channel. Learning about his journey through the tabletop RPG space was fascinating, and I hope you learned a little something for your own journey. As always, be kind and roll well.